Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are doing great. Happy Sunday. Got a lot of NFL action on the board today. Let's go ahead and like and subscribe. Check out all my links in the description below. And go ahead and sign up with ParlayPlay. Get $10 in risk-free entries when you guys do sign up. Tons of free NFL tournaments every day. And so, yeah, go ahead and hop in there. Super fun. And yeah, we'll hop into it. A lot of good action today, starting with the Arizona Cardinals versus the Chicago Bears. Cardinals opening up as 7.5-point favorites with the over-under at 42.5. The last 8 head-to-head here, Chicago 5-3. Cardinals are 5-2-1 covering in those matchups. Then the over-unders just hit 4 times in the last 8 meetings. Arizona coming off a 23-13 win over Seattle. Chicago coming off a disappointing win against Detroit, 16-14. I do see Hopkins and Murray are questionable. I mean, they've been questionable the last 4 weeks, and they haven't played. We'll see if they do end up playing. I am seeing that it's looking like they're more possibly to go this week. So still, it's going to be a game time decision. So we really don't have any idea up until that last hour before. Arizona 6-0 covering on the road. Really good road team. 7-2 covering in their last 9. They've been able to cover here. This Bear team just 1-5 covering in their last 6 games. I mean, the last 2 weeks, Bears putting up 16 points, 13 points. That's not going to get it done here. Playing a Cardinals team, even if Murray doesn't play, you really can't trust this Bears team. The offense really does stink. Defense is all right, but definitely keeps them in the games. But looks like Andy Dalton is playing, no Justin Fields. Yeah, rolling with the Cardinals, buying a point on Arizona, getting them at -6.5. Taking Cardinals on the money line as well for your parlays. Next matchup, we have the Indianapolis Colts versus the Houston Texans. Colts opening up as 10-point favorites with the over-under at 44.5. The last 10 head-to-head, Colts 8-2. 8-2 covering in those matchups. The over-under in this series hit only 2 out of 8 times here in the last 10. Colts coming off that 38-31 loss over the Bucs. Houston coming off a 21-14 loss against the Jets. Colts playing great, 6-1 covering against Houston. 5-0 covering against Houston. Pretty much total dominance against Houston. This Houston team just 1-9 in their last 10, coming off a loss to the Jets. It doesn't get any worse than that here. Zero confidence in this Texans team. Colts are going to run all through them. Give me the Colts minus. Gonna buy a 0.5 point just because that's what I like to do. -9.5. Add them to your money line parlays here. They should be able to stomp out this Texans team. Next matchup, we have the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals opening up as 3-point favorites with the over-under at 49.5. The last 10 head-to-head split down the middle, both teams 5-5. Cincinnati 7-2-1 covering in those matchups. The over-under in this series has hit only 4 times in the last 10. Chargers coming off that 13-28 loss against Denver. Cincinnati coming off a 41-10 win over Pittsburgh. 2 back-to-back really big wins for this Bengals team. Chargers just 1-5 covering in their last 6. Just not really getting it done here. 1-6-1 covering against the Bengals. Bengals 4-2 covering in their last 6. Playing really good football here. Chargers, man, they're just super spotty. It's tough because some weeks, they look like one of the best offenses in the league, and then some weeks they just struggle to score, and it's really frustrating for bettors every single week. Yeah, I'm taking the Bengals in this one, getting a -2.5. Rolling with Cincinnati. I could definitely see this being a closer game. The Chargers, man, it's just tough to gauge on them. I've lost a lot of parlays with the Chargers just not showing up here. Taking the Bengals here. They've just been so hot these last 2 weeks. Chargers have not looked great. Just 1-2 in their last 3 weeks. Rolling with the Bengals here. Next matchup, we have the Minnesota Vikings versus the Detroit Lions. Minnesota opening up as 7.5-point favorites with the over-under at 46.5. The last 10 head-to-head, Minnesota 8-2, 6-4 covering in those matchups. The overs only hit 4 times in the last 10 meetings. Minnesota coming off a 34-26 loss against the Niners. Detroit coming off a 16-14 loss against Chicago. Minnesota on an 8-game winning streak against Detroit. 6-2 covering against Detroit here. Detroit, I mean, we know how bad Detroit is. Haven't won a game yet. 0-9 at home. Going to be tough against this Minnesota team. Even though there's no Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison's going to still, a very solid backup and going to get a lot of work and be pretty effective against this Lions team. Buying the point, get Minnesota -6.5 just because, to be safe. Rolling with the Vikings both ways here. Next matchup, we have the New York Giants versus the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins opening up as 6-point favorites with the over-under at 39.5. The last 6 head-to-head, Giants surprisingly 5-1, 3-3 covering in those matchups. The overs only hit twice so far in this series. Giants coming off a 13-7 win over the Eagles. Miami coming off a 33-10 win over Carolina. Miami currently on a 4-game winning streak, playing great football. This defense is just on fire, creating a lot of turnovers and pressure. Giants, I mean, look at their last 4 weeks here. It's scored 13 points, scored 10. They had 23 against Vegas, but then 17. I mean, they're not getting a lot of points on the board. The offense looks atrocious. Miami rolling with the Dolphins here. I'm keeping it simple. Giants struggle to score, struggle to create any offense against a really hot Dolphins team and a great defensive team that's creating a lot of turnovers here. Going to be a tough one for the Giants. Rolling with the Dolphins -6. Take them on the money line. Next matchup, we had the Philadelphia Eagles versus the New York Jets. Eagles opening up as 7-point favorites with the over-under at 45. The last 6 head-to-head, Philly 6-0, 5-1 covering in those matchups. The overs only hit 3 times in these head-to-head meetings. Philly coming off an embarrassing 13-7 loss against the Giants. Jets coming off a 21-14 win over Houston. Philly on a 10-game winning streak against the Jets. 5-0 covering against the Jets here. 5-0 on the road. I mean, pure dominance against this Jets team. Yeah, the Jets got a nice win over Houston, but Houston just as bad as the Jets, so that really doesn't even mean anything here. I like Philly to bounce back, coming off that embarrassing loss against the Giants here. Taking Philly -6.5 here. We'll take them on the money line against New York. Next matchup, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons. Bucs opening up as 11-point favorites with the over-under at 50.5. The last 10 head-to-head, surprisingly Atlanta 6-4, 5-5 covering in those matchups. The over-under in this series is 9-1, which is really good for you over-under bettors. Tampa Bay coming off a 38-31 win over the Colts. Atlanta coming off a 21-14 win over the Jaguars. Going to be a tough matchup for the Falcons here. Tampa 4-1 in their last 5 against Atlanta. 4-2 covering against Atlanta here. Yeah, love the Bucs here. Atlanta got to win against the Jags, a game they still struggle to beat the Jags. They already played Tampa, losing 48-25 early on in the season. I'm expecting the same thing here. Tampa Bay rolling, 2 wins here against a very bad Atlanta Falcons team. Rolling with the Bucs -11. Add them to your moneyline parlays. Next matchup, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Los Angeles Rams. Rams opening up as 13-point favorites with the over-under at 48. The last 5 head-to-head, Rams 4-1, 5-0 covering in those matchups. And then the over in this series is 4-1, so definitely the over is pretty intriguing here. Jags coming off a 21-14 loss against the Falcons on a 3-game losing streak. Rams on a 3-game losing streak as well, coming off a 36-28 loss against Green Bay. I mean, not much to say about the Jags. Horrible on the road. 0-10 on the road. This is a great spot for the Rams. Rams, they have been playing awful. We all know that, but nothing better to turn their season around right here on this losing streak. To play this Jaguars team that's on a 3-game losing streak. We know how bad the Jaguars are. Trevor Lawrence is going to have a tough day against this Rams D. I think the Rams D steps it up here, creates turnovers on Trevor Lawrence. And, taking the Rams minus 13, add them to your money line parlays. Next matchup, we have the Washington football team versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Vegas opening up as 1.5-point favorites with the over-under at 49. The last 10, 6 head-to-head. Washington 4-2. 4-2 covering in those matchups. The overs just hit 2 times in those 6 matchups. Washington riding a 3-game winning streak, coming off a 17-15 win over Seattle. Vegas coming off a 36-33 win over Dallas. They're just 1-3 in their last 4. Washington playing good against Vegas, 4-1 against Vegas, and then they're 4-1 covering in those matchups. Playing solid football here. I like Washington here, plus the points. They're on a good win streak. I mean, playing good football here. I mean, playing good teams. I mean, started with that Tampa Bay win, and then good win over Carolina and Seattle. Vegas, they got a nice win against Dallas, but let's be real, the Dallas defense isn't that good, and offense, Dallas isn't playing all that amazing, to be honest. I like Washington plus the points here. Going to be a close one. You could really go either way here, but I'm going plus 1.5 for Washington in this matchup. Next matchup, we have the Baltimore Ravens versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ravens opening up as 4.5-point favorites with the over-under at 44. The last 10 head-to-head, Pitt 6-4. Baltimore is 6-3-1 covering in those matchups. The overs only hit 5 times in those 10 meetings. Baltimore coming off a 16-10 win over Cleveland on a 2-game winning streak. Pitt on a 2-game losing streak, and they tied against the Detroit, coming off a 41-10 beatdown against the Bengals. This Pittsburgh team, man, it's hard. It's going to be hard to back them the rest of the season. It's clear they're pretty much prepping for a rebuild. A lot of injuries on defense. The offense looks awful. Big Ben just looks awful. No offensive flow here. Baltimore, not the most offensive outings in their last 3 games. They've only topped 16 points in the last 3 games here, but I just don't have much faith in this Pittsburgh offense here, man. They just don't look very good here. I like Baltimore here. Going to take them on the money line. I don't like the spread, 4.5. If you want to go with the spread, go for it. But going to add Baltimore to some money line parlays if you want. Rolling with the Ravens. I just don't trust this Steelers team, especially after last week. Hard to gauge what direction they're heading in right now, which isn't looking good. Rolling with the Ravens. Next matchup, we have the San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. San Francisco opening up as 3-point favorites with the over-under at 45.5. The last 10 head-to-head, Seattle, surprisingly, they're 8-2, covering in 5 of those matchups. The over is 6-3-1 in the last 10 here. The Niners riding a 3-game winning streak, coming off a 34-26 win over Minnesota. Seattle on a 3-game losing streak, coming off a 17-15 loss against Washington. This Seattle team just looks awful. I mean, the highest they've scored is 15 points in their last 3 games. Niners, all back 3 games in a row during their winning streak, 30-plus points. Not going to say much about this matchup. Only a 3-point spread. Rolling with the Niners. I mean, how can you trust this Seattle team? Defense is awful. The offense looks awful. Russ just does not look the same here. Niners starting to get things rolling. I'm surprised this isn't a higher spread here. Taking the Niners, buying them 2.5. That's just my philosophy. Get a minus 2.5. And rolling with the Niners here. Next matchup, we have the Denver Broncos versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs opening up as 9.5-point favorites with the over-under at 47. Last 10 head-to-head, KC 10-0, 8-2 covering in those matchups. The over/under is 5-5. Denver coming off a 28-13 win over the Chargers. Chiefs riding a 4-game winning streak, coming off a 19-9 win over Dallas. No Melvin Gordon for Denver, so that does definitely hurt them a little bit. Denver 0-5 on the road against Kansas City. Kansas City finally starting to get things going. They had their struggles early on, but it's a long season on a 4-game winning streak. I think they're definitely getting things rolling now. Denver playing good football, 3-1 in their last 4. But the Kansas City D starting to get things moving, especially, giving up 9 points, 14-7, 17. This 4-game stretch they're on, they're allowing under 20 points, which is crazy. Yeah, give me the Chiefs minus 9.5. Add them to your moneyline parlays. And then Monday Night Football, we got probably the best game on the slate, I think. We have the Patriots versus the Bills. Bills opening up as 2.5-point favorites with the over-under at 41.5. The last 10 head-to-head, Patriots 7-3, 6-4 covering in those matchups. The over-under in this series is 4-5-1. New England riding a 6-game winning streak, coming off a 36-13 win over Tennessee. Buffalo coming off a 31-6 win over the Saints. Patriots, 6-0 covering in the last 6 games during this winning streak. 6-3 covering against Buffalo. I like the Patriots here. I'm buying a point, getting Patriots plus 3.5. This defense for the Patriots is playing great. Buffalo, probably their biggest test of the season. Against good teams, Buffalo, man, they've kind of just been, they haven't shown up. They didn't show up against the Colts. Didn't look that good against the Chiefs. Yeah, it's going to be a tough battle for the Bills here. I'm surprised New England's getting any points here the way they've looked. Give me New England plus 3.5. And that's going to be it for the video. Good luck with your picks and parlays on Sunday. Hope you guys all cash, and I'll see you guys Monday. Have a good one.